Hey, my friends from around the world. This is Lucy Morris from Lucy Morris Coaching and at the flyingarcher.com podcasting. Whether you hear this in the morning, night, or day, I have this real amazing guest, totally cool guest here on who is not an archer, who's not an archery coach. So you're just going to have to hold on to your seat and really enjoy. I have Donnie Boivin here.
Hey, girl.
And so what I want everybody to do is just to, if you're driving your car right now, don't worry about taking all notes or anything, because I want you, to concentrate on driving, because I will take lots of notes, put it on on my blog, and you're just going to absolutely love it. So Donnie, sit back, relax for a moment. I'll give a little introduction about you so the world can know who this great person is who's not an archer, who's not an archery coach, that's on my podcast. So Donnie, at 22, at the right age of 22 years old, he joined the Marine Corps and landed his first straight commission sales job. I got that wrong. He just got out of the Marine Corps at 22 and got his first commissioned sales job. And for 20 years, he learned what it took to be successful in sales, business, and life. At that youthful age, he thought he knew enough to survive in one of the toughest professions in the world, being a sales professional. He quickly realized sales wasn't as easy as it looked. At the age of 40, he discovered he had been living other people's dreams and not chasing his own. Taking the biggest risk in his life, he jumped out on his own and started a business, which is quite a risk in this day and age. And also, he had great success at the start. He now understood he knew nothing about being a business owner. On the brink of failure and shutting down his business, he found podcasting, and everything changed. Now, Donnie is a top 200 podcast on iTunes. Donnie's Success Champions is helping the world one story at a time. Yay, let's welcome Donnie.
Thanks, Lucy. I'm actually really looking forward to this. I know very little about archery other than you put an arrow in a bow, you pull it back and it shoots forward. So there's my extensive knowledge on archery.
Well, with archery, there's a lot of success principles that nobody really thinks about. And, people go, oh, let me learn how to shoot. I go and I pull back a string and I let go. I'm like, actually, yeah, that's what you're doing. You're letting go of stress. There's a lot of other things happening. But to be really good, you need to have a mindset of a champion. Actually, I'd say a mindset above a champion. Because I'm not sure all champions actually understand mindset and how to really run their life.
No, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. The greatest analogy I've ever heard for archery is if archery is a really good definition of how you make anywhere in life. And before the arrow can move forward, it's got to be slung backward. It's got to be pulled backwards. And a lot of times as you're moving through your life, you're going to get pulled backwards. You're going to get pulled back into places you thought you'd gotten past. You're going to take some missteps. You're going to take some failures. And if you just envision that's just you pulling the arrow backwards, and at some point, you're going to release. And when you finally release, man, that arrow is going to shoot forward with a tremendous amount of velocity. And it's going to be an absolute game changer for your life. And I always correlate that to one of my favorite quotes in the world that comes from J.K. Rowling. And J.K. Rowling, of course, is the author of the Harry Potter series, said rock bottom's the foundation of where I built my life. And that's the same thing, so you got to go through it to become it. And I got to tell you, I have spent some time shooting bows and arrows. It is a disciplined sport.
It is.
And I've a time or two understood why they wear those forearm bracers, when they release a string.
Well, that's where proper coaching comes in. Like, for any sport or anything we do in life, we need a coach. And also, as you're saying, when you get into that, say, rock bottom is really the pulling back of the string and you let go. And when you're just launching yourself into life, but you got to remember that it's okay where the arrow hits. If you don't quite got the skill yet to get it to go exactly in direction that you want it to go.
Yeah, I mean, I love it because it at least it moved forward, right?
Yes.
And every time you get a chance to move forward, you're learning something. You know what? But it's interesting is everything you do in life takes time, and everything you do in life, especially if you're going to try and find skills at it, is going to require you to do what I always tell people, which is get punched in the face. And what I mean by that is you got to get punched in the face by life to know what makes you tick, know what makes you work, know what makes you function. And that means you got to be willing to put yourself out there, excuse me, to break down your own walls and discover what you're made of and how you're built and what you do. You know, for me, I literally right after I got out of the Marine Corps, I found sales, and you know, I had some tremendous and great success in the sales game, and it was a lot of crazy years, but it took me starting my own company and actually having it fail miserably out the gate to figure out what I was made of, to
Yeah.
understand, you know, who I was. And you know, it's the same thing in everything in life is if you're not willing to take a chance and bet on yourself, then you won't discover what it's going to take to move forward. And I love how you said a lot of champions, you know, they're almost single-minded. They stay focused on they're really good here, but a
Yeah.
lot of their other portions of their life are pretty messy. And
Yeah. Yeah. You know, to be really good, you've got to not just focus on the skills of what you're learning, but you need to take care of your physical, your spiritual, your eating habits, and your thinking, and your daily morning, evening routines. And those are just a few things.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, my morning is extremely regimented. So we have a farm. You know, I've
Mhm.
got goats, chickens, ducks.
Well, you see, then you're kind of like forced to get up because you get if you go, you've let them down.
You
You know,
sound like my wife. uh,
I I did
no.
hear what she was making for dinner, and that sounded really good.
No, there is some truth behind that. So it does absolutely get you some regiment in the day when you think about that. But you know,
Mhm.
I've always been a morning person. You know, since I was a kid, I always got up early, and I know a lot of people aren't morning people, but you know, I tell everybody, you really want to get yourself in the habit of having to move and do things, get some animals, get them on an alarm clock, and you'll never sleep in again. You know, my wife hates it when I go on travel for speaking engagements and stuff because now she knows the animals are going to get her up, you know, every morning, and she's going to go take care of everybody. But you know, but for me, you know, it's I go take care of the animals, and then I go to work on me. So I'll journal. I will start taking care of some of the business stuff. But every morning, it's the same routine every time. And what I found is that allows me to get very tactical, if you will, about you know what I'm doing in my business, what I'm doing with my day, and that regiment and that routine allows me to get more focused and accomplish the task at hand before the day gets going and everything squirrels out and you start chasing
Yeah.
shiny objects.
I I've it's so easy for us to get up to an alarm clock to go to a job, and I tend to work in the evenings. I'm like, so right now, I'm like, what am I going to do like for the morning? How can I get myself going? So I decided, all right, I'm calling it like power up. You know, my power up morning is it changes a little bit per day, but it's basically get up, go for a walk. Doing a walk, I have attitude of gratitude, or I'm listening to an empowering speech or music, or I'm just listening to nature. And then I come home and I do uh, 30 um, push-ups, 30 squats, and then actually 5 minutes of qigong and 10 minutes of tai chi. Um, and then every other day I'm going to the gym. And the gym isn't like an hour workout. Well, I guess sometimes it is, but I've just re-found Planet Fitness and just found their program that I really like their program. So I just started weightlifting again. And I have found actually over the past couple of weeks doing this routine, I just have more energy throughout the day.
Absolutely. I
And
got
I
to tell you.
almost
Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I almost feel like guilty doing this, honestly, because it's like when I first started, it was like 3 hours of my morning is taking care of me. And I'm like, okay, so why do I feel guilty about this? Well, because I've been trained to just go, 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 go for other people or for my own business. And our society kind of
Mm.
frowns on like to taking care of us. So it took me a little bit to go, this is really okay, because self-care this is how I can better myself and be ready for the day and everybody there.
Yeah, absolutely. And one, I got to tell you, freaking kudos. Excuse me. I'm not sure I could do 30 push-ups right now. So
Oh,
so
oh, I am not doing the normal push-ups.
I don't care. That's still impressive. That's still impressive. Excuse me. I'm battling a little bit of a head cold.
That's okay. I'll just while you're getting a drink, I don't do 30 at once. I'm doing like 10 push-ups and then 10 squats and then 10 push-ups and 10 squats. So it's not all at the same time. Um,
Yeah, but even so, that's still impressive. Because
if it's a
it's still a regiment. It's still a workout, and you're disciplined enough to keep it up. Good on you.
oh, it feels good. I I went, and then little things that you don't realize happen. I went for a walk, and I was uh, the guys were plowing, and I didn't feel like stopping and talking to the guys that were shoveling, so I just decided to sprint, and I like sprinted right past them, and I'm like, oh my god, this feels good. I'm just like, and then I walked a little bit more, and then I did another all-out sprint, and I am not a runner, but over this past year, I've done enough that I've gotten into better shape than I realize I am.
Right.
I was like, this is really cool.
Well, I can tell you, my wife and I are both getting ready to get back heavy into working out. But with the farm life, with me running my business, her working a full-time job, we both leave the house by 6:30 every morning. And
You'd have to get up at 4 to work out.
yeah, and I mean, I'm up at 5:20 at the latest every morning, but um, so I got to get a lot done in a very short amount of time. But I'll tell you, even then, we're both not getting home till 7, 8:30, 8 o'clock at night, because we put in some long days, and it's not the grind per se to put in those days. She gets home late because she's got a 45-minute commute every day,
Oof.
to and from work.
Yeah.
But that's the choice you make when you want to live out in the country and you live in the Dallas Fort Worth metroplex in Texas. If you're going to get in the country, you're going to find work, you closer into town. So, and I work on the farms, so my commute's not bad, but it affords me to be able to do a lot more on my business. But every weekend is consumed with working on barns, working on fences, taking care of animals.
You're getting your workout?
Yeah, that's what we keep trading off, but the waistline doesn't necessarily agree that that's working out.
Oh, but you know what? It's not the workout. What I found out, it's food.
Oh,
I
of course,
I
but
just
I'm a meat and potatoes boy, so
well, I am. Well, I'm not meat potatoes boy, but I am a meat potatoes gal.
right.
I like sweet potatoes.
I don't mind sweet potatoes. I like them best as fries.
Mm.
So I'm, my wife says I'm the absolute best of making anything that should be healthy completely unhealthy. It'll start off great, I mean, maybe it's green beans but by the time I'm done with it, it's gonna be covered in cheese and bacon and everything else that's not good for you. So, yeah,
So now we know what's going on.
absolutely, absolutely.
Do you do you feel that food really impacts people's focus and thinking?
I learned this a long time ago, being on stages and everything else, that certain foods will actually demotivate's not the right word, but they'll make you feel like crap. So like for instance, if you're going to go on stage, you're going to go to competition, bread's a horrible thing to consume because it's so heavy. And so, I've learned that even before I go on stage to speak or anything, I don't eat anything.
Yeah.
Because I know that whatever I consume is going to affect everything that's fixing to happen. So similar to an athlete training for an event, speakers, podcasters, we all have our different routines that we go through. And, just like walking on stage, I mean, I'm assuming it's the same thing that your athletes go through. I mean, I have a very strict regiment of things that I'll do before, I go out there on stage, because in my job is to teach and bring value to people. And if my head's not in the game, my head's not right, then I'm not delivering on what I'm supposed to be doing for the people. So, I have to go through a very regimented routine, and part of that's eating. I mean,
So what foods do you eat like the night before? Does that impact you what you eat
yeah,
in the morning?
what I find at nights, unless I got a really early speech, dinners I don't really worry about. It's more the breakfast that I'll worry about. And on most speaking mornings, it's fruit and oatmeal. I mean, those are my two things because they're not heavy.
Yeah.
And if I'm traveling and speaking, then it's going to be as light as a breakfast as I can find. Only because it's going to be just a lot more on the body. And, usually when I'm traveling and speaking, it's hotel food, which is never good for you. And it's hard to eat healthy in a hotel. So, because they want to slap all kinds of crap on everything. So, but it's a fine balance. That's like anything in life. You got to balance it all out: the good, the bad, the ugly, and keep it moving forward with a lot of fun stuff.
There are some options when you have a refrigerator at a hotel, and have them take you to like one of those shuttle services.
Yep.
Go to I was going to say Shaw's or Hannaford's. I don't know if they have that everywhere, but a supermarket where you can buy stuff so you can have exactly what you want for snacks and exactly what you want for breakfast. I find it really empowering because I was in a hotel for work and I had food with me, so I didn't need to go down and depend on whatever stuff they had out that was probably pretty nasty anyways.
Right.
Probably tasted good, but
Yeah. So what can I do for your guest that would help them out the most? So I know you have a bunch of archery students. I know you have a bunch of coaches and things. What can I do for them that would bring them the most value in our time together?
well, another thing, when you had talked about, the example of pulling the string back, sort of how you kind of, when you fall back into life, not fall back into life, but when you hit rock bottom or something, it's like you come back and then it's almost like a slingshot. Well, basically it's a bow and arrow is like a slingshot. You're pulling it back until you need to let go. Um, do you have an example in your life where you kind of hit, if you want to share, kind of hit a low place that then you were able to bring yourself back?
Yeah, absolutely. So I launched my business in September of 2017, and that's when I made the crazy decision to jump out on my own. And a lot of things played up to that moment. But I can remember the day I made the decision to jump out and start my own business. That drive home was a rough drive home because that was the first time in my life that my life was 100% dependent on me. I'd always had jobs. I'd always had, income coming in from various different angles. And this was the first time that it was, all up to me to make it work. So, I really had this notion in my head that because I had a pretty good reputation, I had a pretty good brand, that when I started my company, that this company was just going to take off, and it was going to be this just amazing thing. And I was going to travel the world, be a speaker, and sunshines and rainbows. And I realized really quickly that, yeah, that doesn't happen. I don't know what made-believe world I was envisioning, but reality wasn't matching what my beliefs were. And I was fumbling through business. I didn't understand what it took I mean, I knew how to sell so I could bring on clients, but I didn't understand the operations. I didn't understand accounting. I didn't understand a lot of things that it takes to run a business. So right about the 6-month mark, I literally had to go to my wife and say, babe, this isn't working. I can't keep the company afloat. I'm not bringing in enough money. I'm probably going to have to go back and get a sales job. And, the really scary portion of that talk was I had to tell her that, we're really close to losing the farm. We're going to lose the vehicles. We're going to lose everything because I just didn't have enough income coming in to pay for it all. And, at that time, we had built a secondary house on the property for my mother-in-law, and she was living there. So if I lost it all, I mean, she was losing her house too. I mean, so this wasn't just affecting me and the animals we had. It was affecting, her mom and her livelihood as well. And, when you got to look at your wife and say, or your spouse of any sort, and tell them that, it's you screwed up and you screwed up bad. It's gut wrenching, right? I mean, it's a huge punch in the face. And her response was she cried, she freaked out a little bit, like any good person would. And then she turned around and looked at me. She goes, "You better go bleep and sell something." And so I did. I started. I started figuring out where I could get business, and I had one last speaking engagement that was scheduled. And I told her, I said, look, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go do this one last speaking engagement. And if it works, I'll keep doing the business. If it doesn't, I'll go get a job. So I went to the speaking engagement, and I said, before I go on stage, I'm going to leave it all on the stage. I'm going to give it everything I got. And I'm going to deliver the most powerful, the most impactful speech that I can. And that video's out there. It's really one of my most powerful speeches. But after the speech was done, I was flat out exhausted physically and mentally. I gave it my all, and it was a lot of fun. But somebody from the crowd came up to me and they said, Donnie, that speech was everything that I needed to hear right now. And I really appreciate it. And I think the fans who listen to my podcast would like to have you come on the show. And I had to look at him and say, that's awesome. I really appreciate it. But what's a podcast?
Yeah.
And it was funny. He explained to me that a podcast is like an old time radio show where the families used to sit around the radio and listen to people talk. And I'm like, oh, you mean like talk radio? He goes, yeah, just like talk radio. I said, I can do that. So I went on a show. We recorded the episode. We had a blast. We laughed and joked just like we are here, and just had a lot of fun. And after the show aired, one of his listeners reached out to me and became a coaching client. And I went, wait, I can go on podcast and find clients? Hold my beer and watch this, because it's about to get crazy. And so in the next 30 days, I employed every sales strategy and tactic I could find. And I goes on about 67 shows in 30 days and went nuts. And somewhere around episode 50, I happened to get on a show, and I'll just tell the full story because I think it's funny.
Okay.
This guy, before I went on his show, he sent me a list of 20 questions and said, these are the questions I'm going to ask you. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. Nobody's ever sent me the questions before. So I thought it was going to be an open dialogue like you and I are having. And as we go on there, he looks at me, he goes, okay, question 1. And he asked me question 1, and I responded. And he goes, question 2. And I responded. He goes, question 3. And I went, oh, crap. This dude's going to keep going. He's just going to keep asking me questions. And so me being me, I asked him a question. I'm like, all right, so tell me, how'd you get into podcasting? And he goes, question 4. Oh no. And we went through 20 questions. I'll never say the guy's name, right? But that episode is out there. It is fully out there. People can go find it. But he went through 20 questions and there was no dialogue. And by the time we got to the end, I told myself, I'm like, look, man, if this guy can have any sort of success in podcasting, I'm in. So long story short, May of 2017 is when I launched my podcast, or excuse me, May of 2018 is when I launched my podcast. And, 3 months in, it hit top 200 in the business category on iTunes. 5 months in, it hit top 200 overall on iTunes. And then, I stay up in the top 200s on a regular basis. But because of the podcast, I started getting picked up for speaking engagements. I went to Ireland to speak, and traveled around the U.S. doing speaking engagements. I started picking up coaching clients, and I started learning how to be a business owner. I started learning how to do processes and procedures, and how to outsource things. And it's been an absolute game changer. But I love telling everybody it required me to failing miserably and completely damn near losing it all before I finally figured out who I was.
Yeah.
And finally figured out what I was made of and was able to start pushing forward. And the show became a success because I'm interviewing people all over the world about their story and their journey and what they've overcome and what they've been through, because I knew those type of stories inspired me and I wanted to give that to other people. And then it became networking, and it's been an amazing game changer. And that's why I'm so love helping people with their podcast and getting into it. And I love finding shows like this that are so niche. I mean, this is the first archery podcast I've ever heard of, and I freaking love that. I love it better because you asked me to be a guest on here.
Now it's a top-notch show.
Right. Absolutely. But that's the fun thing about podcasting is I don't care what you are interested in. You can start a podcast on it.
Mm-hmm.
And, I gave a speech yesterday in my hometown, which is fun because I don't get to do that a whole lot. And they asked me to come in and just speak about podcasting. So I got to go in and just talk for an hour on podcasting. And, I'm talking to a couple people now about starting the shows.
Oh, cool.
And so I'm going to start, and it's a new thing is I'm coaching people now on how to get into podcasting and how to launch their shows. I launched a free group doing it as well, but on Facebook, but it saved my business, and it helped me figure out who the hell I am, which is just a really cool and fun thing.
So, in going through pretty much having life punch you in the face and falling forward, what?
I love it when people start using my phrases, so thank you for that.
Oh, I love your phrases.
Yeah.
We're not, our school system, our jobs, they don't train us how to deal mentally with failing. Like, can you give like one tip for a strategic thing for someone to do when they feel like they've just failed something?
Well, two things. I don't think you ever fail. I think you quit.
Ooh, that's powerful.
But it's the truth
Wow.
is it's never a failure until you stop trying, right? So,
Right.
I tell everybody to start trying to fail on purpose. And here's what I mean is if you're sitting around going, oh my God, don't drop this, don't drop this, don't drop this, you're going to freaking drop it, right?
Yeah.
Because you're so hung up on whatever you're holding that it's going to fall out of your hands. But if you go into this going, all right, I'm going to try and carry it this way. I may drop it carrying it this way, but let's see what happens. And then you go through, and if it drops, you're like, okay, well, I shouldn't have carried it that way. And I know that's really, really, really simple way of thinking about it. But the truth is, when you go into something and you go in to fail on purpose, what that means is you're going in with the belief that there can be another way of doing it, that there's could be a different way of trying it, and you can start expanding out and learning something new. And I learned this from the sales game is, when I was, doing nothing but sales training, I'd get people come up to me all the time and they would say, I've had 20 years of sales experience. And I said, oh, well, tell me about that. And they're like, well, I've sold here, I've sold there, I've sold there. And then a lot of times they're like, but I'm miserable. I'm not making very much money, or I'm looking for a new job. The company sucks, and you hear all these excuses start popping out, right?
Yeah, they're self-talk.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
And when I look at them, and man, I get some people really mad at me. I'm like, what you have is you don't have 20 years experience, bud. Is you got year one repeated 20 times. You never evolved. You never learned anything. You never pushed yourself hard enough to figure out what made you work. You were so worried about screwing up and what other people thought about you that you never stepped into you. Right.
And do the
So
deep work.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean by getting punched in the face in life. If things aren't breaking, if things aren't screwing up, then you're not going for it. I mean, come on. It's like if you take it back to archery, when people are, first learning to shoot, especially if they're doing competitive shooting, they didn't come out the gate, pick up the first bow and split an arrow. I mean,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of patience. It takes a lot of broke strings. It takes, a lot of learning. And, with anything, I'm assuming bow and arrows and archery is the same way. You've got to learn to shoot how you shoot. Just because somebody else shoots a certain way doesn't mean it's going to naturally work for you. You've got to find your rhythm and your style.
You know what I found in interviewing these, not these, but these amazing elite athletes in archery, is some of them will talk about the tipping point where it just clicked for them. And they may not say it in that actual words. And one person was like, when I still have it like on my mind, I could actually see the competition with the way he described it. But he was saying when he came to the decision that it didn't matter what anybody else thought, it was actually just about him and and shooting and letting everything else go. Then it just flowed. It clicked. And I think people are so afraid of not succeeding and getting, what you'd call failing, not winning the contest or watching other people, that it's really the mind game that's messing them up.
Yeah, yeah. The best description I've ever seen it is a movie called For the Love of the Game. And you got Kevin Costner plays a pitcher in there. And he's on a pitcher mound, major league game. And he does it several times. He's got a thing called Clear the Mechanism. And if you haven't seen that movie, go watch it just for these scenes. And he's on a pitching mound, and the fans are screaming and yelling at him, and they're calling him names, and telling him he sucks, and just all the derogatory things that can happen, into a pitcher. And all of a sudden, Kevin Costner leans down, and I forget his character name in the movie, but he leans forward and he goes, "Clear the mechanism." And then the screen, you watch it. All of a sudden, the stadium disappears, a crowd disappears, everything disappears, and it just zeroes in on him. The guy swinging the bat, the catcher, and the umpire. That's all he can see, and he's able to tune out everything. And it's the most perfect description for how people should move through life. Is you should tune out everything but what you're focused on at the moment, because most people go through life and it's like they're carrying this price tag on their chest, looking at everyone going, "Would you please tell me how much I'm worth?"
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that it stems from us growing up. It's, everybody who went through elementary school or junior high, high school, it sucks. Because, you get the cool club, the not cool club, all these different categories, and nobody really fits in. And so we learn at an early age that you can't be yourself, because you be yourself means you're no longer cool. It means it's no longer this. And we never get over that all the way into our adulthood. And we're still battling with, I just want to be part of the cool kids. Well, no, you just want to be you. Quit
Yeah.
worrying about what everybody else thinks. Clear the mechanism, right? Clear the thought process. And I love that he got to that point, because it really is when you are able to just let go and not give a dang. And girl, I'm proud of myself for not cussing on your show. I usually cuss a lot when I speak, so I'm proud of myself. But when you can just let go and quit worrying about the world, the society, and what's going. And the biggest thing people need to do is turn off the damn news. And I'm not talking
Mm,
about beliefs either way, fake news or anything. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the negative crap that you're being fed.
yep.
On average, there's like 21 to 22 negative stories on the news before anything positive is ever said, because misery loves company, and they know that a house burning down is going to draw people's attention to it. So they're going to tell you all the bad stuff. They're not going to try and lift you up. And whatever you feed your mind, you become. So if you're consuming all that crap, you're going to be crap. And
Hmm.
if you're consuming all the stuff that all these people are telling you, you're going to start believing it. And it gets to its worst when you start becoming the stories you tell yourself. And, it's amazing to watch people, and on the outside, people can look at them and go, they're amazing, they're awesome, they're so well put together. But that person on the inside is telling themselves the exact opposite of the story. I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm horrible, I'm whatever. And even though other people are telling them how awesome they are, how amazing they are, how whatever they're doing, they actually are only hearing what they're telling themselves. They're only hearing that story, that version, but it's being compounded by the constant noises from everybody else. Um,
I'm thinking one way to help you change that story in your mind is the best thing is to turn off the news as much as you can, because stuff pops up on the computer. But you have to be deliberate about what you then put in your mind.
yep.
So you have to deliberate, say in the morning, read something inspirational for 15 or 20 minutes. Do meditation, do a thing of gratitude, because you have to replace old habits. Habits never go away. Just create some new habits, which create some new thinking, which I guess your neuroreceptors or whatever they're called in your head
Look at
get
you. I'm
trained.
impressed.
You know these things, and so you're actually changing your brain. And when you do that, you feel better when you put this from McDonald's food in your brain to high quality food, which actually it doesn't cost anymore
Right. Right.
to put good stuff in your mind.
Yeah. What's funny is I love the phrase stuck in a rut, because here's where that comes from. Your brain actually has those creases in it. Everybody's seen what a brain looks like. So every one of those creases is actually called a rut.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens is the memories and the things, and I'm going to screw this up a little bit, but what you do in life, and everything you go through creates those creases in your brain. So
Okay, so when you're a baby, there's no creases.
no, there are, but they're based off of the memories of what you experience of that type, and they're constantly forming and evolving.
So when you come out into the world in like your first breath, how could you have
Because you spent
creases?
9 months living experiences through your mom, and
Okay.
you still are experiencing life. This isn't my specialty, so
Okay.
you're
Well,
gonna
well
have
go
some
on and.
neurosurgeon on here going, "This guy is freaking wrong." Right? So when you get that email message, but I I do know that those ruts, those grooves in your brain, they're
Mhm.
constantly being formed, and the deeper the memory, the more tragic the thing, the deeper the rut. And when you're stuck in a rut, you're actually stuck in one of those grooves. You're stuck in a past thought pattern, a past habit. You actually have to forcibly work on changing that rut. And the way to do that is just what you said, is you've got to change your habits and you got to change your disciplines. You got to practice, working on you, journaling, meditation, spending time alone. And the crazy thing is is people say, public speaking's the biggest fear in the world. I disagree. I think
Yeah.
the biggest fear in the world is people spending time with themselves, because they're
Hmm.
scared of what they're going to find if they start looking
Wow.
inside.
Hmm.
Because you ask somebody to do something like meditate, or you ask somebody to sit quiet for 5 minutes, and they've never, ever, ever done that in their life. And so they're all over the place because they've never spent time trying to figure out who they are.
Yeah.
They've just gone through the life and gone through the motions. And I love telling people there's two paths in life. It's really, really this simple. You either get okay being okay, or you get after it. And what I mean by getting okay being okay is there's a lot of people sitting around going, I want this great life. I want this big house. I want all this stuff. And I want to live these dreams. And I want to be the number one. And I want to be on top of the world. But they're not doing anything about it. They're just sitting around and they're hoping. They're waiting for the world to show up to them.
Yeah.
What they would find is if they would just shut up and enjoy the life they have in the moment they have it, they would find so much tremendous happiness. But they're so focused on living that dream life or whatever it is that they're trying to impress all the people around them. And so they're buying houses they can't afford. They're buying cars they can't afford. They're buying stuff to keep up with the Joneses because they want to look the part but not actually do the work to get there. If they would just turn off that noise of that fake lifestyle and start being, okay, why am I buying crap that I don't want to impress people that I don't even really like in the first place? And they start releasing all of that negativity and be themselves in a moment. That's freedom. When you
So,
can go ahead.
um, oh, go on. I'll ask my
Yeah.
question in a second.
But when you can get rid of all of that stuff and start being there, you can be okay. Or you quit telling people the lifestyle you're going to have, the things you're going to do, and you get your butt to work and you start doing. And you let your actions speak and not your words. Now talk. You may speak now, my dear. No, I'm kidding.
Why, thank you, sir. Wait, this is my podcast.
Oh, sorry.
uh, so since people are we're also driven by habit,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a specific suggestion technique to do to be able to change this type of mental focus?
Yeah. Uh, One, find accountability. People suck at holding themselves accountable.
Yeah.
So back to how you started this whole thing off. This is why you have coaches, because coaches help you stay accountable. Two, tell other people about the new habit. So if you're going to start a new morning routine, do something crazy and go on Facebook and tell everybody. Every morning I'm going to post a video as soon as I wake up so you can see me become a morning person. Right? Put that challenge out there and tell the world, because now you got to decide, am I going to show up every day, or do I got to face everybody and show how big of a liar I was that I made that big of a commitment?
Yep.
Right? That's what I mean by fail on purpose. If you
Yeah.
only make it 3 days in doing that, doing a live every morning, cool. Get on there the 4th day and go, well, I didn't make it this morning, but here I am doing my live just the same. I'm going to start over again, see if we can make it 4 days.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's the thing, is accountability fixes a lot of stuff, but you can't just set out like a New Year's resolution and say, I'm going to do blah, blah, blah. That never works.
Yeah.
You got to find a way to find yourself accountable. And the other thing is, and I love doing this because it drives so many people nuts, is I don't believe in goal setting. I actually think goals don't work. And here's why. When people set a goal, they often set goals they already don't believe they can achieve. Right? They set it, these massive things that they know that they're never going to be big enough to do. So they just don't even try. They don't even go after it. what I tell everybody is to quit setting goals, start setting milestones. And I always correlate it back to sales because that's just what I know. And it's an easy analogy. But let's say you sell $10,000 a month, right? Don't go out and say the next month, I'm going to sell $100,000. Too big of a jump, too big of a leap. Go
Yep.
out the next month and say, I wonder if I can get to 11. Can I sell 11,000? Cool. I wonder if I can do that in 2 months back to back. Now let's go to 12. Now let's go to 13. And you do incremental growth, what actively allows you to evolve and become the person you need to become to get where you want to go.
But doesn't goals, say, hey, in 6 months, I want to be here, and you backtrack it to what you need to do daily to get to that?
The problem is we go back to people aren't regimented, right? So they do all of that backtracking and everything else. And then they look at all that and they go, oh my God, that's a lot of work.
Mm.
Oh my God, that's going to take me so much to pull that off that they
But college is a lot of work. I mean, to get through one semester of college, you
sure.
do a lot of stuff. But it's we've not been trained for self-discipline, how to do stuff on our own.
100% true. 100% true. And remember with college, you don't get through college in one semester. You complete
No.
1 week, then 2 weeks, then a semester, then 2 semesters, and 4, then year 2, year 3. It's incremental, and everywhere along the way, you're evolving because you're learning new knowledge, you're screwing up, you're doing new things. You're also being institutionalized, but we'll save that for another episode.
I have a master's degree.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Me too.
Well, and all right,
There's
I'll go.
a lot of good stuff from it.
I'm sure there has, but what's your master's degree in?
Organizational leadership.
What the heck is organizational leadership?
It's actually understanding how organizations work and how to make them better.
Awesome. And now you are the vice president of organizational leadership for a Fortune 100 company, right?
Yeah, my own company.
So, but it's interesting. That's a rarity that people actually have a degree that they're actually doing something with.
Well, I mean, I'll have to tell you what the degree did not teach any of us was, one, how to run a business.
Oh, absolutely not.
It taught us how to be middle management, and basically, yeah. I mean, it was fascinating because I was in a class with students from all over the world, so I was one of the few that spoke English as my only language. And we did a lot of learning about personality types and how to work together, and that was absolutely fascinating.
I love that, by the way. I mean, that's really cool.
Well, thank you.
The problem with college is,
but what I want to say is that what college, what school, our whole institutional system does not teach us is really actually how to think and how to control our own mind from whatever's coming at us. When someone decides that there's something that they want to do, they do in increments. As you said, a huge goal generally doesn't work because we get overwhelmed. But our systems do not teach us how to get back up when we get knocked down. Mentally get back up. Maybe we do physically get back up out of bed or whatever. Or maybe not. Maybe some people stay depressed under the bed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they also are teaching conformity. You do things this way. This is the way to do it because that's the way you were taught. Which goes back to they don't want you to think for yourself. And I mean, truth is, college is for big business.
Oh, it is. All schools for big business.
And college is a business.
Yep.
And when these kids are getting out, they're $150,000, $250,000 in debt, and their first job is going to pay them $50,000, $60,000 a year, and they're going to spend the rest of their damn life trying to pay off a degree that they could have went and just gotten through the school of hard knocks and not be that far in debt. Now, I'm not saying I don't want our doctors and lawyers, and there's people that I don't. I mean, there's absolutely people that need to be educated. If you're going to freaking cut my brain open or my heart open or something,
take a look at the creases.
Yeah, exactly right. You better have a lot of freaking schooling. But if to run a business, you can't teach entrepreneurism. You can't teach business ownership in school.
Yeah.
You literally just got to go get punched in the face by doing it and screwing it up. Take mentors. Mentors are great. Find somebody else that's done it and go learn underneath them. You know, if you want to run a business, then go find somebody who already has a business and go work for them. Go work for them a couple of years and tell them, hey, I want to start my own business someday. Mentor me, right? And go learn those skill sets. But you know, I went through 4 years in the Marine Corps, and the same thing. They didn't teach me how to start a business. They didn't teach me how to do anything, but other than how to drink and fight and cuss like, you know, the worst cussers in the world. You know.
Oh yeah.
You
I'm a
know,
veteran too.
are you really?
Yeah.
What branch?
Coast Guard.
Oh, I thought you said veteran. That's so awesome. Thank you, dear. All
Oh,
right.
you know,
Just for all the listeners across the world, we're allowed to do that. We're military. So that's awesome.
I told somebody once, I said, yeah, when I was in the Coast Guard, we swore a lot. And they looked at, and they said to me, oh my God, that's so ungodly, whatever. And I'm like, you know, it, it was sort of like a part of the language. It wasn't so much anger, swearing. And then when I had my first job after the military, which was working for Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association and the uh, Pilots Helpline, which I answered phones, which was kind of way different being attached to a desk
Right.
compared to being military. But I found that I couldn't figure out how people felt because nobody was emotional, no one was expressive.
Because if you're emotional in the military, you're weak. You know.
Well, I don't mean like emotional crying, but
Well,
like emotional, like, I mean, you're expressive. You say what you have on your mind, and you may say it through some colorful languages, and generally you don't really take it personally. It's just a way of communication or whatever.
Well, and to that point, the saltier, the rougher the language, usually the better you're doing. Right? Because when somebody's animated and they call you a bleepity bleepity bleep, right? It usually means you probably did something right.
Yeah.
Right? You know, and
you know what? Maybe in the civilian world, it's just the opposite.
Could be. That's a theory. That's a theory. Interesting thought. Could be. Could be. You know, I don't know. Like on my show, I interviewed Chad Hennings, who was a former Dallas Cowboy. And I asked him, you know, he was also a fighter pilot. He flew the A-10 Warthogs. And, you know, I asked him, I said, you know, going from the military and hanging around in his realm, he was in a lot of type A's, and pilots are usually these type A type people.
Yeah.
And I love hanging out with those type of guys. But I asked him, I said, you know, going from the military to going to the locker room, was there a lot of difference between how people talked? He goes, you know, the main difference was, I mean, it was still the cut up and everything else. The main difference was the level of respect, you know, because in the military, it comes with the territory. You know, you almost look for it. And he said, you know, in the sports, it's there, but ego's getting away sometimes. You know, where in the military, it's not so much ego is it's more bravado. You know, going through, but it was an interesting context to, you know, hear somebody who'd seen both sides of it and understand, you know, the language is universal. It's people that interpret it the wrong way.
Oh yeah.
You
Good
know,
point.
you know,
Words are power. I mean, you can really hurt somebody through what you say, and it's if you say something and somebody really gets upset, it actually changes the chemicals in their body. Not that you're responsible for how someone else feels, but it comes to deciding how to let people impact who I don't know where this is going, but I'm just free flowing here.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You know, I learned in sales that communication is speaking to people how they want to be spoken to. And if we don't adjust what we're saying when we talk to people, then we're talking at them and not with them.
Mm.
Like my mother-in-law, God love her, but that woman can talk a brick wall into submission. um, you know, and her communication style is that she is just going to talk to hear herself speak. And I'm not busting her chops. I tell her this to her face all the time,
Mm.
and just give her a hard time. But she doesn't understand that communication is a two-way street. It's a two-way, conversation with people, that when you speak to people, you should speak to understand. You should speak to get to know them. You should speak I mean, it's like me watching my language all the way through this whole episode, which I'm really proud of myself of, you know.
I high five, man.
But it's knowing the vibe before everything gets going and being courteous and respectful to them.
Mm-hmm.
In the military, that cussing and everything else is respectful. That's
Yeah.
the lingo. That's the language. That's just how everything goes. And doesn't mean you have to do it, but you got to respect where you're at.
But you know what?
Good.
Where we were really, really good with was we did not have any off-color jokes. It just was not a part of it at all, being in the military. But then in the civilian world, it was like, it just, it was just weird.
Yeah. I think, everybody struggles with that transition out of the military, going from the military to the civilian world. It's a very tough transition. And one of the guys on my show said it best. He goes, man, you go from being hanging out with 30 people on a regular basis. I mean, you do the 3 S's, you crap, shower, and shave. You see, I cleaned that up. And, and you eat together, you sleep together. I mean, you're around each other 24/7, and somebody's always pointing you in a direction. You get out of the military, and now you're alone. You're trying to figure it out on your own. So that transition's a very, very, very tough spot for people. And I think people find themselves in that way a lot of times, and that's why they're so scared of change, and they're so scared of starting something new or walking into a room full of people, because they don't know the communication, they don't know the vibe, they don't know the energy, they don't know what's going to happen, and they can't control it. And I think that's what slows a lot of people down on their journey, with where they're going and what they're going to do. And I don't know, this whole world's just a wild ride. And for me, it comes back to, if you're not scaling up, you're actually moving backwards.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now with habits, how can you transfer your life to become a winner through changing your habits? I'm not saying that you're not a winner, but
I'm a winner. Come on, Lucy. No, I'm kidding.
I knew that.
It's goes beyond changing your habits. It goes, you got to change your beliefs, and you have got to break down you. And I really believe whatever tragedy you've been through in life, whatever horrors you may have dealt with, whatever bad things you may have gone through, if you realize that those things, how unfortunate and tragic and how sad they are to hear that you may have been through, that if you will use those things and understand that all those things are what have been hardening you for the success you need to find in your life, and you start turning those into your success stories, and you start turning those into your triumphs, and you start using that as your propeller forward, then you're going to find a lot of cool success in your life. But most people, they don't want to spend time in those dark places. They don't want to go down and break themselves down and study that moment of how it shaped them and turned them into something greater than they are, because they survived whatever they went through. It's amazing to watch when somebody's able to share their story to inspire others. I mean, I've shared the stages with some people that just have some tragically and horrifying things that have happened to them, and now they've had the courage to go out on stage. And I'm not telling people to go out in the world and broadcast the stuff that's happened to them, but these people that have chosen to share their story to empower others, they are such a blessing to the world because they've spent the time to go back and analyze, that moment and used it as their force to move forward with. And it's a beautiful, empowering thing. And if people will spend more time working on themselves, then it's not habits, it's changing those beliefs, and then it's forming good habits. But most people are walking through this life as a victim of, the world handled me a bad hand, the world did this to me, I didn't get this. I mean, I could say the same thing. I was the youngest born. We grew up in a poor household. We didn't get the luxuries of life. Well, cool, that's all my fault. You know because if I choose to look at it as something that holds me back, that's on me.
Yeah.
But I love telling people those stories because that's what hardened me and that's what shaped me into who I am now. Cool. Let's keep running. Let's keep moving forward. So start on you and then work on the habits.
I don't think I really understood the working on yourself until recently, even though I've been working on myself for a few
Hmm.
years. And I'll share a part of a story. Is I was in a pretty fascinating accident. I don't feel like sharing it because it's kind of like people go, whoa. But I mean, I ended up being fine. Uh, but I, I, I was at, they deemed me at fault, and so I beat myself up for it. And so, I had therapy, and I did not have post-traumatic stress, trauma, whatever. But what they, what I realized, and I just realized this a couple of weeks ago, was that I put myself down for it,
Hmm.
and then it went into my subconscious, and then whenever I'd fail at something or I feel like I failed at something, I'd like um, put myself down about it. And that was like 3 weeks ago. It just came to me. It was like, boom, this is what happened. It was like 25 years ago. And this is how I'm reacting to different things. And I'm reacting, I mean, it just came up. I'm reacting the way I reacted then. I'm like, oh my God, there's this hidden, um, not hidden, but I had buried an emotion. I'd buried something deep. Um, and I think I never really believed that that's possible. I mean,
Hmm.
we are who we are, whatever. I was in the Coast Guard. I've flown airplanes. I've done the corporate world. I've not been in the world of this other world of people who really think about your thoughts, even though I'm sort of am, I guess. And I made a decision at that point. And I was like, if these thoughts come up, I'm like, no, just let that go. I'm going to celebrate the moment of, like, I'm not going to let myself beat myself up over this or that or the other. If whatever comes up, very quickly, things stopped, like, which might annoy me, stopped annoying me.
Hmm.
Like, um, something like, I don't know, a class gets canceled for the weather. No, that gets stressful when that happens too many times, because then it's like, oh my God, when is the paycheck coming in? But then there is a thought flow of how, with that is just being grateful for the moment. Oh, I know what was annoyed me. I showed up to teach an archery class a couple weeks ago, and I got there an hour early because I wanted to be on the phone with somebody, but I couldn't do it while I was driving because I needed to give like full attention. So I ended up checking my email, which I don't usually do. And through an email, I found out that the class had been canceled
Hmm.
because of the canceled after school programs. So that meant Park and Rec was canceled. And my initial reaction was I was just mad. I'm like, oh my God, I spent 45 minutes coming here, and now I'm here. Now I have to drive back home. I've spent this much money on gas. And and then I start saying, you know what, but this has actually never happened to me before. I've never had a class canceled before I show up, early, and I showed up early. And I'm like, maybe, you know, I don't know, let's just go with the flow, Lucy. This is okay. Let's just like drive back home. Maybe there's a good reason for it. And actually, so when I got home, I ended up feeling lousy and just went to bed. I was like, oh, okay, I'm okay with it. But it was, I could have just, kept this anger in me, or I could have kept being stressed. But, our quality of life is how we think.
True.
And so then there's been other little things, not quite like that, like, oh, well, that bothered you, but not as much as it used to. So,
Well, I find it's interesting is, so my wife and I are both the youngest born, and we have a great marriage. I don't know how the hell she puts up with me, but she does.
oh, you
And
swore.
oh, hell's not a word. um, but she, we don't fight. We pick on each other. So it's the funniest thing. So maybe I've left a dish out, to get put away. Instead of just coming by and saying, she'll come by and say, "Hey, you left a dish out," and my response, instead of saying, "Oh, I'll put it up," is always, "Well, you left a towel on the floor the other day." Right? And we do that all the time, and we've talked about this, and it comes back to, it's not that either one of us are mad in that moment, is we're reliving something else that's happened to us at another time, and it's a defense
Yeah.
mechanism going off.
Oh,
And
interesting.
right,
Yeah.
so it's knowing that it's base. So I learned about something, and there's a medical scientific term for this, and I don't know what it's called, but
Mhm.
the generic term for it is called stamp collecting, and this is just fascinating to me. So I'm going to give you a completely fictitious scenario because this never happens. So let's say my wife gets home before I do, and she's supposed to cook dinner and have it ready for me by 7 o'clock every night. That never happens. I do all the cooking in my house. Okay. But let's say that for this scenario. Okay.
In case she listens to this too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. So I get home Monday night. As I walk through the door, she smiles and says, "Sorry, hun, dinner will be ready in about 15 minutes. I'm like, no big deal. We'll wait 15 minutes. Tuesday night, come home and she goes, "Hey, sorry, dinner's almost ready to be ready in about 30 minutes. No big deal. 30 minutes, we'll wait." Wednesday, same thing, 15 minutes. Thursday, same thing, 15 minutes. Friday, same thing, 30 minutes. No big deal. Saturday morning, I'm walking through the house and I step on a shoe in the middle of the floor. I pick the shoe up, I throw it across the room, it sticks in a wall, and I scream and yell, "Why the hell do you always leave your shoe in the middle of the house?" Am I mad over the shoe?
Hmm.
You know, what the truth is I'm not mad at the shoe. Each day that dinner wasn't ready, each day that my expectations weren't met. Not make sure you understand expectations. What I thought was going to happen didn't happen. I did collected a stamp. So Monday when I got home and dinner wasn't ready and she said 15 minutes, I was like, there's one stamp. No problem, honey. Tuesday, there's another stamp. No problem, honey. Wednesday, another stamp. Thursday, another stamp. By Friday, I'd filled my stamp book up, right? And that book was full. So Saturday morning when I walked through the house, only thing I did is I cashed in that stamp book.
Yep.
And she just caught the wrath of everything building up to that point. And this happens often to a lot of people, is when they have these irrational reactions to a scenario, it's usually not the scenario. It's everything that's led up to that scenario.
Mhm.
And that's why you see a lot of people who snap in corporate America and everything else, is it's a buildup of things, not just a one-off, incident that caused them to explode. Right. So, I mean, everything we do now is usually a reflection of something in our past, which is just something really crazy to think about. You know,
Yeah.
you know. But, you know, life's fun as long as you realize that you keep taking one step forward
Mhm.
every day and keep moving forward. Life gets really, really fun.
It's such a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Um I'm trying to read this without you seeing me read this.
I can see you.
Um, but I think this really connects with what we're chatting about is, you know, if we seem to be living in our past, which we don't even realize we are because we're reacting to things that are happening without even realize it's past events that's creating our emotions. Um, so who do you need to become to find the success you're looking for when we have this stuff that keeps creeping up on us? I mean, I get mad at something I had absolutely no control over. I self-talked myself out of it, and then I actually felt fine. Um, but your thoughts?
Yeah, no. So here's what I know is the person you are right now is a level of person that got you to where you currently are, right? And that's why I tell people they didn't have 20 years of sales experience. They didn't have 20 years of archery experience. They have year one repeated 20 times,
Mm-hmm.
right? They didn't level up their game. So what I mean is you got to, go through it to become the person you need to become to get where you want to go. Is it comes down to you've got to evolve. And what happens is people get frozen by their past,
Yeah.
right? They go, oh, I've been here before. That didn't work. Or, oh, I know what this feels like. Oh, I'm not doing this because it's going to feel like this. And they stop. They stop moving forward. And the truth is Rocky Balboa has got the greatest quote of all time. And that great quote is, it's not how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can take a hit and keep moving forward. And that says everything for me because is I can take a hit. I know I can take a hit, but can I still step forward? Right? Can I take that next step? And most people are scared to even take the hit. Right? They want the comfort, they want the simple, they want the okay. And God, I love it. I just want them to understand that they want the comfort, they want the simple, they want the lifestyle, and they start embracing that and become the terms with that's what they want, and quit telling them that they want something more and then not doing anything about it, because that's misery.
Yeah.
It's dreaming you want something bigger and then not doing anything about it. That's how you make yourself miserable. So
How do you get out of that comfort zone of being uncomfortable?
so I have a cool theory on what your comfort zone is. So I think your comfort zone is like being in the middle of a boxing ring, except the ring is round, okay?
Hmm.
And like in the scene from a Rocky movie or something, they got the big lights, the stadium's dark, and all you can see is that ring, okay? That's your comfort zone. You by yourself standing in the middle of that ring with the red ropes all around it. On the outside of that ring is a big old, I had to catch myself, I almost cussed, a big old a big old bouncer, right? So I want you to picture the biggest, gnarliest bouncer you can, arms crossed, just mad at the world. His only job is to allow you to never get past those red ropes. He's supposed to keep you inside that ring at all times. I know one thing for a fact. That bouncer is really just a bully. He's just a bigger, over agitated dude that's just picking on you, right? And I'm going to ask you, Lucy, how do you deal with a bouncer? Or how do you deal with a bully?
Right in the face.
Absolutely. You punch him square in the nose and you knock him square in his butt.
Because they're actually usually the most insecure people in the world.
Absolutely. And once you realize that the edge of your comfort zone is nothing but a big bully trying to keep you from going somewhere, you have to punch him in the face, knock him square in his foot on his butt, and what happens is that ring expands. Okay? What then happens is people go, I did it. I stepped out. I tried it. Woohoo. What they don't see over in the corner is that bully's getting his courage back.
Yeah.
And that bully's going, you know what? I can take that punch. And that bully stands back up and he becomes a bouncer again. And the person, as soon as they feel that bouncer, they start shrinking the rink back up. And the bouncer starts stepping forward. So you have to keep punching that bully in the face and smack him again, smack him again, smack him again, and keep moving forward. And the only way to do this, and this is my absolute belief, is you've got to step into the fire. And what I mean by step into the fire is when that fear pops up, whatever that fear is, lean into it. Because when that fear mechanism pops up, whatever that fear is, that's the universe testing you to see if you really want it. That's a universe saying, how bad will you actually go for it? Because when you step into that fire and you lean into that fear and you punch that bully square in the nose, you are officially starting to evolve. Now, evolution, I believe, in a person moves forward and backwards. Excuse me. And if you are not moving forward, you're actually moving backwards in life. So you've got to step into that fear. But it's not a matter of doing what most people do. Most people are trying to move through life to plateau. They want to get to a spot where they can go, I'm done. Well, life doesn't work that way. Because if you get to that spot where you're like, I'm done, you start moving backwards. That rink starts shrinking up. Mm-hmm. So you don't have to take massive leaps. You just got to take small steps and keep pushing that bully backwards, keep pushing that bouncer backwards, and keep expanding your ring. I know that every once in a while, that bouncer's going to get cocky and he's going to knock you square in your butt and you're going to start shriveling up. Rocky Balboa. Take that hit and keep moving forward. Step again, step again. And every time that fear pops up, you step into it and you do it. And eventually, that next level becomes your new norm.
That's like public speaking.
100%.
Because I gave this 15-minute talk at Toastmasters and on last Friday, and I was a little bit nervous because I didn't feel quite ready, but you get to a certain level in public speaking where it becomes like you're talking and you're feeling the audience. And I was saying something and I'm looking at them and they were all like, the whole group was on the edge of their seats. Now these guys are Toastmasters, okay? Their job is to honestly to be judgmental in a very kind and caring way. And then I did a certain exercise for them, and it was only like 3 or 4 minutes long, not very long, and they did different movements, and then everyone sat down, and I felt a difference in the group from when I started that to when I completed it. And it was this powerful thing that happened to me, because I could speak, and then at some points I'm talking, but I have this inner chatter going in my head just watching them. I described this to one of the newer Toastmasters, right? And she's like, wow, to be able to do that. And I'm like, yeah, it doesn't just take practicing of, I now believe it's not just practicing of giving speeches, which that you can do, but you can enhance and increase your comfort level in giving presentations by doing these, having self-talk, getting rid of the negative stuff, the TV, because if you evolve as a person, then whatever you're doing, whether it be shooting arrows, a football player, public speaking, you will get there faster and be better faster by taking care of the whole you. But it starts out with an analogy of public speaking is getting up terrified and giving that one speech.
That's
or
it.
Being that more successful person giving a speech, say in Toastmasters, because we got a bunch of people who are really good. I'm like, why don't you go out in the public and do it? Oh, no, 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 no. That's too scary. How about you videotape yourself? No, that's out of my comfort level. I'm like, these new speakers are more terrified than you.
And,
um,
yeah, and that's a perfect analogy. I mean, people will ask me from time to time, they're like, how are you so confident? And I'm like, well, define confident. And they're like,
yeah,
you know, they always immediately go to, well, you're you carry yourself, you're so strong, you're all this, and they're describing all this emotional stuff,
hmm,
right? Here's this, and this is Donnie's ism. This is my belief. Okay,
yeah,
confidence isn't a thing. Confidence isn't even an emotion. Confidence isn't real. There's no such thing as lacking confidence. It's 100% you lack experience,
yes. I
right?
love it. Yeah, no, that
Because
so makes sense.
yeah, because the first time you gave a speech anywhere, myself included, yeah,
Hmm.
it probably didn't go very well, right?
Yeah.
But 100 speeches, couple hundred these, however many speeches I've given over the years,
Hmm.
um, dude, you can put me on any stage, I'm gonna be just fine, right? But it's because I have the experience. The
Yeah.
first time you shoot a bow and arrow, it's probably wonky. And people are like, well, I'm just not confident enough. No, you just don't have the experience of shooting a damn bow and arrow. You know, you know, it really just comes down to is stepping into it.
And having that coach on the edge of the ring
Yeah.
that's giving
Well
you
said.
that roadmap to help you go through that fear and do it anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what I didn't talk about is that bouncer, that bully
Hmm.
has a buddy. He does. And it's a little bitty gremlin.
Oh,
Except
the
this
buddy.
this little bitty gremlin, that dude lives on your shoulder. And he's just
Oh,
hanging out all the time. Except the problem is that little bitty gremlin lived with you your entire life. He knows your deepest, darkest secrets. He knows everything about you. There's no anything that gremlin doesn't know. Problem is, since he's sitting on your shoulder, he can whisper in your ear all the time. And as you're going through life, he's the guy constantly saying, hey, remember last time you tried that? It sucked. Remember public speaking? You don't like that, right? And he knows everything
yeah.
because he knows if you knock that bouncer out, you're coming for him next,
Hmm.
right? And the only way to shut up the chatter, the only way to shut up that self-talk, which is that little gremlin going nuts, is you got to knock the hell out of the bouncer first. And then the gremlin shuts up because he knows he's fixing to get popped next.
One key to that is changing your focus
Okay.
because your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. So if there's something that's like really stressing you out or whatever, you focus on something else.
Yeah. Um, and I agree with that because when you look at something and you're constantly like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, guess what? It sucks.
Yeah.
Right. But if in that moment you go and say, you know what, this over here doesn't suck, I'm going to go do that,
Mhm.
you will completely change your state of mind, which is, a really, really cool thing. Really cool thing.
This stuff is so cool.
I have fun with it.
How do you suggest you unleash your inner badass?
Oh my God, you cussed. I have been fighting it for freaking however long we've been doing this, and you cussed. Oh, yeah. You and I are going to fight later.
Oh, yeah.
So here's the thing. Since you cussed, I'm in now.
All right.
I believe.
Okay, listeners, we have now gone from PG to.
Yeah. So earmuffs. Look, inside everybody's a badass. Literally, everybody's got it. The
Mhm.
problem is they're so scared if they unleash what they're going to find. Most people refuse to step into their greatness. Most people are so scared of how awesome they could be that they're not going for it. Man, if you will let your hair down and stop giving a
My
bleep,
hair's down.
your hair is down, right?
Look at yours.
right? But if you will literally step into the fire and start embracing you and realize you are greatness, you are awesome, you
You are
are
awesome.
amazing, right?
You are you are greatness.
Absolutely. And if you step into it, you're gonna unleash. And God,
Hmm.
when you feel that power, you feel that rawness, you feel that energy coming from you. Oh, it's a cool feeling. And you know you're doing it when the whole world starts clicking along with you. You know, um, uh, you've got to go start doing the things that scare the pure living crap out of you. And when
Hmm.
you do those things, man, your life will explode. The problem is people don't want to know what that looks like because society has told us all along that success is they're jerks. Success are horrible people. Money is bad. All these horrible things that we've been told, and movies depict it, religions depict it, everything depicts that success is a bad thing. So they won't unleash because they're afraid they're going to become that person. Look, whoever you are now is the same person you're going to carry into, whatever your level of success is. If you're an alcoholic when you're broke, you're going to be a bigger alcoholic and more expensive liquors when you're freaking rich. If you're a jerk when you're broke, you're going to be a more bigger jerk when you freaking are rich. It comes down to you just got to let your hair down and go step into it and watch yourself evolve and start doing the right things. Start being a good person and go for it. But to unleash your inner badass is first know who the hell you are. Know what makes you function. Know what makes you tick. Know what makes you
How do you find that?
by screwing up, by
Mm.
breaking yourself down and spending time in. I mean, it took me having to completely damn near lose it all to get there.
Yeah.
There's a great book called Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. And you want to talk about somebody who broke themselves down to discover what they're made of. Whew.
Hmm.
That book's not for the faint-hearted. He's a Navy SEAL, and it's full on. And if you caught me on stage, David and I sound a lot alike because there's a lot of colorful language flowing. But
Yeah.
you know, um, uh, it's to find yourself. You got to spend time with yourself,
Hmm.
and you got to walk away. And I don't care if you meditate, you journal, you pray, whatever your thing's into. Go for a damn walk and have nothing but you and nature, and start thinking about what you're thinking about. Start focusing on where your mind's going on a regular basis, and then try and understand, why does your mind go there? Where does that come from? What causes that? And start thinking internally versus externally. Quit being a reflection of the world and start being a reflection of yourself. At any point where you find yourself going, man, I wish I could do that, and you don't because you're worried about somebody else's opinion, is that moment you need to understand why the hell you just made that action. Because you're not being true to yourself. You're not being your true self. You've got to start looking inside. Quit walking around with that price tag on your chest and asking people how much you're worth. Start thinking about, what would I want to do? What makes me tick? What makes me function? What makes me work? And then do that. And watch how comfortable you get when you start working on you and understanding why you react to certain things, why you respond in certain ways, and why you act out in ways that even surprise you.
Hmm.
I was at an event the other day and I slipped up with a numerical number, and I said billion versus million, and somebody called me out with it, but I was so caught up in the moment that I defended this $1 billion number. And I was, livid that this was, it's absolutely a billion. And then, 5 minutes later, after I got out of my own damn way, I'm like, well, that was stupid. It was a million, but it goes back to, okay, why did I react that way? Where did that come from?
Hmm.
And, it really stemmed from, being picked on as a kid. And all of a sudden, at that moment, my mind went, "Oh, there's a bully picking on you. Fight."
Yeah.
And it's understanding that stuff and controlling those things so you can just be you. Because in that moment, if I would have turned that off, it wouldn't have become an ordeal. So spend some time inside.
So why do you think people are not doing well in life? Or
They're choosing to be that way. I life is nothing more than a series of decisions.
Mhm.
And I think people are scared to decide anything. And I can prove it really, really simple is if somebody has a significant other, spouse, husband, whatever, or even with a friend, try and have a conversation wrapped around where you want to go eat. And that conversation usually goes like this. Hey, where do you want to go eat? I don't know. What do you want? 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 You feel like Mexican, or you feel like, Italian, you feel like that. And next thing you know, nobody wants to make a damn decision in life.
Mm.
Why? Because they'd have to take ownership of that decision. And that's on them. If people are miserable, here's a phrase that I catch hell for. If your life sucks, it's because you suck. It's because you're not doing the things that get your rocks off.
But how do people you know, get off of this I can't speak.
The merry-go-round of suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, Step off it. And what I mean by step off it
Oh, that could
is,
hurt because when it's moving.
yeah, well, step fast, maybe jump. but it's I don't care how crappy somebody's life is.
Mm-hmm.
There's a spark somewhere. Chase the spark.
Chase the
And
spark.
yep, the greatest question asked of a kid when they're young
Mm-hmm.
is an amazing question that scares the hell out of adults when they're asked. And that question is, what do you want to be when you grow up? As a kid, we loved to answer it. We always were ready with an answer. But as an
Yeah.
adult, when you ask that question, people are clueless because they let life be dictated by what was in front of them versus choosing their own path and choosing their own destiny.
How do you gain that? They call dreams now, but how do you gain those desires back?
By shocking the system. I
How?
think so
I
do what
mean,
I did.
I could see you be like, yeah, go jump in a really cold water or something.
Right. I mean, how I did it is I walked away from an amazing career. I walked away from a business that I was buying out. I walked away from security. I walked away from it all and bet on me.
Mm-hmm.
And that scared the pure living shit out of me. And it still does. And I still some days go, how the hell did you have the courage to do that? And I just did it. Now, I'm not telling people to go walk away from their comfortable life and this, that, and the other, but start living for you versus for everybody else. Look,
Yes.
if you hate your job, get rid of it. Go do something else. And people are like, well, I can't afford my lifestyle. Well, your lifestyle is built for other people anyways.
Mm.
You're living in the house you live in. You live in, drive the car you drive. You're doing all that for other people. Who gives a shit? Turn it all off and get rid of it. When you start realizing what brings you joy, what you really embrace, and you spend time in that moment in that world and have fun with it, man, it's a cool damn place. But most people are living for somebody else, and they're living for that paycheck, they're living for the whatever, or they're waiting for the world to show up for them.
Yeah.
you know you got to step out on your own and see what happens, see what you're made of. And that for me, that's the answer. It's a shock the system. Do the biggest thing that scares the pure living crap out of you, because public speaking doesn't scare people. It's what they think is going to happen because of public speaking that scares people.
Yeah.
Deal with those things and
Mm-hmm.
life will start taking care of itself. deal with the underlying things, and life gets better.
And same with competing in a tournament. You're just afraid of all these unknowns, but then if you practice enough, the unknowns go away, and it's just like shooting in your backyard.
Yeah.
Or it should be. You should get that to that point.
Yep. Any competition is stressful as hell if you choose to let it be stressful as hell.
Yeah.
Right? Compete with yourself. Screw everybody else.
And the competing with yourself, it's not so much, I just came to my mind, it's not, you don't have to think of it, I'm trying to score better than I did 2 days ago. You could do the competing with myself concept of, I'm going to have better focus when something distracting happens than I did the day before. And in being in that mode of letting things that come into your mind and just go away, then because of that, your scores can go up.
Agreed. And but there is something to be said of, and I don't know how scoring works in archery, but if it's anything like darts, and I can hit a bullseye and get higher points.
Yeah.
Then all right, I got 1. Can I get 2? I got 2. Can I get 3? I got 3. Can I get 4? And going for a PR, your personal best, or PB, whatever the hell they call it, personal best, personal record,
Yeah.
right? Challenge yourself.
Yeah.
Don't worry about the field. Worry about what you're doing.
Exactly. You can imagine that you're the person that won and you got really good scores, but when you're in the moment, you're not actually focusing on the results. You're refocusing on your current action, mental and physical.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then everything comes into place.
It does. But that's the answer to life is work on you. Quit comparing yourself to people who are 10 years down the road from you.
Mm-hmm.
And do you. Better phrase, be you. The world will adjust.
So how do you step into your badass? Other than doing something as terrifying as quitting your job and
for me, it's daily going, how do I go bigger? How do I go louder? How do I do more? How do I unleash and just explode into the world? Because I know.
I like that. How do I unleash and explode into the world?
Because, we only get one shot on this rock. We only get one ride in this rodeo, however you want to put it.
Mm-hmm.
And you either step in or you sit in the stands. And both places are great, but you pick which one you want to go. And for me, I got to step in the arena, right? And the bigger and louder I go, the more lives I can impact.
Is that your personality type?
No. I was an awkward, weird kid growing up. I got picked on. I got bullied. Even through the Marine Corps, I wasn't the cool kid, anything like that. I found myself in success, went through sales because I figured that out. And the stage found me. I didn't find the stage. I just happened to be going to events and got really good at networking. And somebody said, hey, you're really good at this. You should stand in front of the room and teach it. Okay, we'll try that. And that's what set me down this entire path. And, my life is an amazing series of stumbling into things. I stumbled into speaking. I stumbled into podcasting. I stumbled into sales. That wasn't my choice. I never wanted to be a sales guy. I never really wanted to be the guy on stage. It just happened to be that thing, and it's for me, this is what I've evolved into, and I still got a long way to go. I got a lot of things to learn. I think that I should be standing toe to toe with some of the biggest names in the world on sharing stages with these guys. And, it's going to happen. It's going to come, but I've got a lot of work to do to get there.
Yeah.
And I think for anybody, it's unleashing with patience.
Unleashing with patience. Mm,
going for it,
I
knowing it's
love
going
it.
to take me years to get there. Because, you beat yourself up if you don't,
Yep, which
and
is really easy to do.
yes, yes. But that's why I don't set the goals. It's how do I get back to the incremental growth? What's that next milestone I need to take down? you
Hmm.
know I have some buddies over in the UK, and I keep telling them one of these days I'm coming back, because I spoke in Ireland. I'm like, I want to go speak in the UK again. Those people can drink their butts off, and it's a fun damn time, so I want to go hang out with them again, right? And they
uh,
cuss so bad. Oh, it's so awesome to be on their stages, because they're just foul mouth. It's fun.
oh, I would love to speak on the same stage with you. That'd be fun.
Come on, girl. Uh, I'm working on an event up in Baltimore right now with two ladies. We're throwing around some of the names. One of the names might be Unleash Your Inner Badass. There was another one thrown around called Business Badassery. So we're working on it. I'm coming up to the Northeast. I haven't. I've been up in that area quite a few times. I've never spoke up there, so I'm looking forward to that. So I'll keep you updated when we come up.
Cool, that'd be awesome. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah.
Um, do you want to share your social media sites with
Yeah, yeah,
us?
absolutely. You can find me. Best place is at my website, donnieboivin.com, but and that's where I put out a bunch of videos and blog posts and all my social media stuff. But my podcast is called Donnie Success Champions, and just some really cool stories on there. A lot of fun there, but you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. I have a content development company where I help people create social media content through some
Mm.
really, really cool ways. We are not a social media management company by any stretch of the imagination. That sucks. I will not do that. Um, but if you need social content, go check out successchamps.us.
Hmm.
And we have some cool packages and things on there to help people create content. I've got, and just look for Donnie Boivin on all the platforms. I'm there. But on Facebook, I've got two really, really cool groups that people should come hang out in.
Okay.
One is the same name as the show. It's called Donnie Success Champions. And every day we're popping out I'm popping out motivation, and we're having a lot of fun. It's very much like a family community environment. Um, and it's where everybody finds about all the new things I have going on, the new things I roll out, and I get a lot of feedback and advice. I love that group. That's a free group. Come hang out there. And then if you ever want to get in podcasting, I'm teaching people how to podcast, and that's also free. And the name of that site is So You Want a Podcast. And just podcasting did so much for me that I want to give back. We will be releasing some podcast course and some ebooks and some really cool things coming down the road. But in the Donnie Success Champions, every Friday at 3:30 Central, I do a Facebook Live talking about what's going on in the week, what's coming up, talking about the podcast. And then I pop into So You Want a Podcast every once in a while and do a live in there.
Hmm.
Inspirational, motivational, instructional teaching. And, I pop out a lot of content on LinkedIn as well and connect with people there. You actually found me from one of my videos on LinkedIn. Um,
Actually, I think you found me.
did I? Well, even
Yeah.
better, even better. So a habit that anybody can get into, and this is what I do every morning, is 10 reach outs. I will
Mm.
reach out to 10 people. Usually LinkedIn right now is my big focus. But I will reach out to 10 new people every uh, day to strike up new relationships, create new networking, and it's amazing the opportunities that it's opened up. That I just continue to love and embrace. It's a lot of fun. So come hang out. Love to meet you. Or you can send me an email at donnie@donnieboivin.com. It's me responding, me managing it. So, send me a message. Let's connect.
And the really wonderful thing with Donnie here is this is one way you can replace the negative trash that's coming into our mind from social media, TV, and news, and start putting in high quality, good stuff into your mind. And I'm also going to put all of Donnie's links of his social media and the books and different references onto our blog. So if you're sitting there going, oh my God, I need a pen, don't worry. I'll have it on the blog, theflyingarcher.com. And this has been an absolute joy, Donnie. You're now accepted into my archery family as one
Oh,
of us.
thank you. Do I get like a really cool bow or anything and with my name on it? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Actually, an arrow.
Oh, sweet.
Oh, the arrows of love, because Valentine's are coming up.
No, absolutely, absolutely. That's awesome. Yeah.
But this has been awesome, and I'd like to leave us with a pearl of wisdom that you have that you would like to share with us.
You know, biggest thing is you were brought into this world to be an amazing person. Start being you. Step into your life and unleash. Be that badass that you know is there. Go have fun and embrace life and just light the world up. I've got faith in you. I'm proud of you. I'm so glad of where you've gotten in your life. Now go. Run like hell, and don't look back and explode into your greatness. Yeah.